Morris, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Tim.
How are you?
Not bad at all, not bad. Beautiful, beautiful day here in central Newfoundland, Green Bay, in fact.
Oh, you're in Green Bay, are you? What's going on in Green Bay? What's on your mind?
I tried to keep up on the hydro situation in Newfoundland, Labrador.
Okay.
And, it's, to me, it's absolutely ridiculous, preposterous that we have to have an electrical blackout in the summer here in Newfoundland, and we have so much electricity, okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, the Holyrood generating plant was never built. And I remember, I mean, I can go back far enough to the Joey era when all that was sort of planned. It was never built to be a core producer of electricity for the Northeast Avalon. It was only supposed to be a standby unit just in case something happened to the main transmission line from Beatty's Bear and other areas across the province, okay, that was producing electricity. And here they are in there now. They're only producing about 630 to 670 megawatts of electricity a day here in the summer now, and can't produce that because they have to do the maintenance on some of the other equipment. And Tim, here in central Newfoundland, we have about 100 to 120 megawatts of electricity. That's some of it is being, not much of it being used, that could be shipped to the Northeast Avalon if a third line was built, okay? Here we are on the exploit. Since the paper mill, I think they were using something like 70 megawatts of electricity at the paper mill, and then, of course, there's a power plant on the exploits at Grand Falls. There's another power plant in Bishop Falls, and there's one in Granite Lake and Star Lake here in central Newfoundland. That's, as far as I can find out, and this is from reliable sources, we are spilling the water today that we should be making electricity with, and we own the plant now. We own these plants because, of course, we paid for them when we expropriated the Abitibi price or Abitibi. Yeah. And that power can be, well, it's almost free electricity. I mean, there's water coming down the river and can produce this electricity at, from what I can understand, probably a cent and a half to 2 cents a kilowatt. And yet we're producing this, to me, very, very expensive electricity at Holyrood for from 17 to 20 cents a kilowatt hour, okay?
Morris, a question for you. Two quick questions before. Yep. How much, I mean, as you know, I think well documented here, particularly through the whole, as it's called, dark Newfoundland period, the pub hearings that are going on, that there's a full and legitimate debate to be had about energy infrastructure, whether it works or it doesn't work, whether we're spending too much or not enough, or spending on the wrong things, what accountability, all of that, and you're raising some of those issues today. I want to know, because I know from living and working in Ontario that brownouts, as they're called, and blackouts, as they're also called and have occurred, part of the message that gets out there about, is driven out to the public, is about conservation. How much of this does the public have to assume responsibility for in circumstances like we find ourselves now? It's so hot and humid, people have fans on, they have air conditioning on. What do you say about that? From what I can understand, we're not great consumers of electricity in the summer. Okay. I mean, like the Holyrood unit is only using about 630 megawatts of electricity at this particular time, whereas in the winter, of course, it goes up to 1,500 to 14 to 1,600. But so we're down to less than half of what we would use in the. But the problem is they're doing maintenance on some of the equipment, and then down in Beatty's Bear, they lost a transformer, Tim, down there on February the 17th in Beatty's Bear, and they don't have that transformer repaired yet that would be providing this electricity. You mentioned the just picking up on that, because it's an infrastructure issue, and then I'll ask you this, and then I'll give you about a minute, and then we got to take a break. But has that third line not now been approved?
Well, it's going through the PUB now.
Right. That's one of the things they're making the decision, from what I can understand. And that line should have been built 4 or 5 years ago. It come in about $280 million. It could be up to 350 now, but to build that line. But the point I'm trying to make is that new unit that they're putting in Holyrood is going to cost us about $125 million now. But it's a gas guzzler. They got 2 tanks in there now, which 2.5 million liters of fuel and gas that got to be put in these tanks to run that unit. It's costing us a fortune when we have the capacity already on the island. Cheap electricity that could be pumped in into the Northeast Avalon, but it can't be done because of the lack of a transmission line. Okay. One last point, if I can make it.
You got about 10 seconds.
Yes,
go ahead.
Yes. Look, Newfoundland Hydro should be an independent corporation and not a subsidiary of Nalcor, because Ed Martin and the boys are concentrating more on gas and oil off the shores rather than electricity. Newfoundland Hydro should be on its own, making its decisions, and these problems now.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Thanks, Morris. Bye.
All the best. Bye now. Bye.
All right, Morris, local interpreter and critic in some ways of Nalcor and structures.